Joining us now, Dr. Wittman, Congressman Wittman. He represents Virginia's 1st Congressional District. That's the Central Virginia area. And Dr. Wittman is the ranking member on the Sea Power Subcommittee in the U.S. Congress, and he is with us now. Dr. Wittman, great to have you, sir.
John, great to be back with you this morning.
Let's start with the president's statement through his press secretary on his phone call with President Erdogan of Turkey, basically saying the U.S. will not be participating in their northern Syrian offensive, and that basically the U.S. is out of Syria. Let's start with that, and then we'll get over to ISIS. Sure.
Well, John, I think there are a couple of different things happening there. Obviously, our United States forces have defeated the Taliban, well, both Taliban and ISIS in the region, actually ISIS itself. I think the concern with all of this is, and I understand the president wanting to pull out and getting those troops out of there in that conflict against ISIS, I think is what we need to do. One of the other elements, though, that we do have to be aware of is that some of the elements in northern Syria are Kurdish elements. Now, there are a number of different pockets of the Kurds. Obviously, you have the Kurds there in Iraq. You have the Kurds that are there operating in northern Syria. The concern would be is that the Kurds have been allied with the United States in the fight against ISIS in northern Iraq. So I think we have to be very careful about what we are doing in not alienating the Kurds who have helped us defeat ISIS there in northern Iraq, help push ISIS out and actually expand those areas that are under non-ISIS control. So I think those are the things that we just have to be mindful of, because we do need the Kurds in those areas. I understand what Turkey doesn't like about the Kurds. They see the Kurds, many of the groups there, as terrorist groups. I understand those efforts. I understand the president wanting to say, hey, listen, we've finished with the conflict against ISIS in that region. We want to go ahead and pull out. But I do think we have to be mindful about what our relationship is with the Kurds there in northern Iraq and the things that they have done to help us. They have truly been an ally there. So, we'll watch as those things unfold. I'm just waiting to get a little more of a briefing about what the exact nature of the operational pullout is going to be there, what we're going to continue to do to support the Kurds in northern Iraq, and understanding what the dynamics are going to be in the region. But I understand the president wanting to pull out our presence in Syria as to our efforts in defeating ISIS and allowing Turkey to go in there. But there are other considerations, I think, too, in the larger picture of things to make sure we get it right.
Congressman, you sound troubled by this.
Well, listen, I just want to understand more about the dynamics of this. I want to understand about how this is all going to be put in place. What are we doing to support what have been for years friends in the region? So that's my only concern. Again, I haven't gotten enough, John. I haven't gotten enough information this morning to understand the true nature of it. The president just came out with this statement yesterday, so I'm trying to get a little more of a laydown from this. I'm trying to get some more information from the Pentagon. I think they're trying to get up to speed too on what's happening. So I just want to make sure I have the full picture here. So I'm not saying anything other than what my observations are, just upon the information I have at this moment.
All right, so then let's get to ISIS fighters that have been captured. The president says, look, I don't want to be paying for these in perpetuity. They came from France, Germany, other European countries. They came and we captured. Now we're paying for them. Why don't you take them back? The Europeans pushing back on that. Now he told the Turkish government, anybody that you capture is your own deal. I don't want to deal with them. What's this whole thing about?
Well, listen, I do think our European allies, especially those ISIS fighters that originated from Europe, do need to be a partner in detaining these individuals. I do believe that it's, in whatever Turkey pursues in that area, anybody that they capture, they have to be responsible for that. So I think it's just the president trying to clearly delineate lines of responsibility, who's going to do what. And I agree, there shouldn't be an obligation for us to hold these individuals in perpetuity, because just as we have other of these terrorist fighters that we've captured from the Taliban, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda, the question is, and when you capture them on the battlefield, many times it's very, very difficult to capture with that the information necessary to try them under a criminal court proceeding, but they are still needing to be detained because of the danger that they pose to United States troops and our allies. So you are able to detain them under the standards of conflict, or the rules that adjudicate issues with those folks captured on the battlefield in conflicts. The key is the president wants to define responsibilities about who is going to continue to keep them. I think it's a worthy issue to be addressed, and to get the other countries to be giving a clear delineation about that.
Why is it that whenever the president asks our allies to chip in and do their fair share, that the intel community and the State Department goes apoplectic? I mean, why? I mean, the average American, they look at this and they're like, okay, well, why shouldn't they be sharing the burden or taking the whole burden? Because many of them, that the ISIS fighters we captured, came from their countries. Why does the State Department melt down every single time we ask our allies to participate in a fair way? Why is that, Congressman Wittman?
John, the only thing that I can see that would be a reasonable concern there would be how would other countries detain and continue to hold these individuals. We've seen sometimes in the past when that has happened that those countries decide to release these individuals, and we've seen this, that they end up back on the battlefield again. So I would think that would be the only legitimate concern there. So, but I think that those issues can be worked out, and the United States can be a partner with them, but shouldn't have the sole responsibility. So I think the concern about that, about us not bearing the full burden of the cost of this, is legitimate. I also think too that you can do this and make sure you have assurances that these individuals aren't going to be released, that they're going to be held with a high level of vigor and with attention to make sure that they don't escape and get back to the battlefield. So those are the only reasonable concerns that I would see somebody would have. But again, I think those things can be addressed.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. I'm with Congressman Dr. Rob Wittman, 1st District Republican, Virginia. That's the Central Virginia area. He is also the ranking member of the subcommittee of the House of Representatives on Sea Power. Congressman, let's get to impeachment and the inquiry. First question. You read the transcript. What did you make of it?
Well, John, I read the transcript of the conversation between President Trump and President Zelensky, and I didn't see any quid pro quo there. I've read the whistleblower's report. I haven't seen any quid pro quo there. Obviously, Ambassador Volker's conversation with committee members there, I haven't had a chance to fully look at that, but it's my understanding with other members that serve on the Intel Committee that, again, there was no quid pro quo there. I understand there's another whistleblower on the same conversation, so, and I haven't seen any of that information. But John, let me kind of lay out how I see this process. As you know, impeachment is a formal constitutional process. It is outlined very specifically in Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution. And I believe fully that this process needs to be a transparent one with complete due process. Let me tell you some of the concerns I have. When Speaker Pelosi comes out the day before the transcript is released and announces that they're going to do an impeachment inquiry, to me, that is not allowing due process. Secondly is she has never called for a full vote of the House to authorize the impeachment inquiry. And as we've seen in previous impeachment proceedings, the full House has voted on that. And the problem with that is that sets aside due process. She doesn't have anything there to define the scope or establish what the rules and procedure of this are going to be. So it then becomes an issue where it's purely at the direction of her committee chairman. And by the way, she's turned it over from Chairman Nadler on the Judiciary Committee. And Rule 10 of the rules of the House prescribe that it's the Judiciary Committee where all findings of impeachment are referred to, not to the Intelligence Committee, which is where Chairman Adam Schiff is now taking charge of this. So the question is, why aren't they even following the rules of the House? And under this, without there being a formal establishment of rules and procedures, the question is how do members of the minority issue subpoenas? How are we allowed to call witnesses? How is the President's Counsel given the right to present evidence and object to things? I mean, this is fully a one-sided process that doesn't allow for due process. And listen, I want to look at everything there, but I also want to make sure it's done in a fair and thoughtful way. And this is not happening that way, John. And listen, I'm trying to be objective about this, but it just deeply concerns me about how things are proceeding here. And it appears as though that they are on a fast track to get to a point of compiling a list of charges under articles of impeachment. And that deeply, deeply concerns me.
Well, so far there's no hearing. And as you said, there should be a vote on a hearing. And if the House votes for it, then you're within the rules. But then the Republicans can call rebuttal witnesses. They can call their own witnesses. That they can subpoena whoever they please. So you have due process. Right now, what you have is a political witch hunt masquerading as an inquiry where they only subpoena one side. It's a fishing expedition. And what you're going to get now is every phone call the president has, there's going to be some whistleblower coming out. What about the fact that we're now made aware that it looks like the whistleblower or his attorneys went to Adam Schiff ahead of time with this information, and that Schiff was helping them craft the document with the lawyers? I mean, I don't know how much more inappropriate that it can be than the chairman of the other party crafting the complaint.
Well, John, it does appear as though the whistleblower contacted Adam Schiff's staff, and we're trying to put together what happened after that point. But I would agree, if this whistleblower were following the procedure is to go file your whistleblower complaint first. Right. My concern is if you're going to Adam Schiff or his staff first, then your intention is for this to be a political process rather than truly a constitutional process. And John, you pointed it out. There's a difference between this being a constitutional process, which is very, very specific, both in the Constitution and then how it should proceed under any reasonable set of rules in the House. I just don't see that as the conversation took place between the whistleblower and Adam Schiff's staff. I just don't see the objectivity that you would want in the process occurring as we have seen, at least the information that I have at my disposal, how that has unfolded.
Well, Pelosi is petrified to get members of her party on the record in voting for the hearing, especially those that won Trump districts, two of them right in Virginia, Elaine Luria and Abigail Spanberger. This is providing cover for them. They can run around and say, well, we got to get to the facts, so I support an inquiry, do op-eds in the Washington Post, but they don't actually have to vote on whether or not they think we should go forward with this. And I just want to get them on the record and let the chips fall where they may. And if there's going to be a hearing, have the hearing. If they have the votes to impeach him, that's the process. Go to the Senate. He'll be exonerated. He didn't do anything. But now what they're turning this into is a month after month, basically a son of witch hunt. You know, first we had the collusion, then we had the obstruction of justice, now we have the Ukraine. I'm convinced, Dr. Wittman, after this is over, they'll find something else. They're not going to let the president govern. And in the meantime, they're not getting anything done. I don't know what your opponent in 2020, whoever that may be, is going to go to the voters with in the first district. I don't know what Spanberger is going to go to the voters with, or Elaine Luria, or any of these people that won in Trump districts. What are they going to go to the voters with in 2020? They've accomplished absolutely nothing. I mean, they can't even get USMCA to the floor for a vote. If it went there the day after you guys got back, it would pass and be signed. They can't even do that, which gets me to this debate now over surprise billing, which is a big issue, Congressman, for a lot of people, not only in your district but in America. This is where you have insurance, you follow the rules, you pay your premium, you pay your deductible, you get covered for something, you get a procedure done, you get it done, and then you get a surprise bill in the mail, and you find out you were out of network or was done by a different doctor or whatever, and you get thousands and thousands of dollars billed to you by the hospital, and you can't pay it, and you either have to go into debt, you get a judgment, you get your salary garnished, and nobody is solving this. And one of the ways that they're trying to scam it is through what they call rate setting or getting a standard rate. And all that does is benefit the insurance company. So big insurance wins again. Why aren't you guys talking about this in Congress when you get back?
Well, John, we should be. And there are a number of great ideas out there about how to do exactly that. Hold the insurance companies accountable, make sure it's transparent as to what's covered in the policy, that you don't get these surprise bills. Another thing, too, is we see pharmaceutical prices continue to go up. There are a lot of things. There are actually 4 bipartisan bills that have passed out of committee, voted on for by both sides. The Speaker refuses to bring those to the floor. She actually has another bill that's full of all these other very divisive, what are called riders, which are additions to the bill. And you hit the nail on the head, John. As I travel around the 1st District, I hear from people every day this. They say, Rob, we want Congress to get things done. We see things that need to happen, things that are important to our daily lives, to our businesses, to our families. Why aren't those things getting done? And just as you point out, it's up to the majority to bring those bills to the floor, to have votes, and to get those things done. We are now bogged down in this highly divisive process of going after the president, and wherever it may be. I mean, the impeachment inquiry prior to that, with all the other hearings and oversight that the other side does. And listen, oversight is responsibility, but this is just consumed almost everything that this Congress is doing. My concern is that the elements of what the country needs to get, USMCA, the trade agreements, what we're needing to do with getting our nation's military rebuilt. What do we need to do to put in place meaningful things to fix our healthcare system? What are we doing to address, really real issues about immigration? All of those things, aren't getting anywhere near even having a debate, because this is consuming every bit of oxygen in Washington. And I can tell you, folks out there are completely frustrated. They look at Congress and say, this has all become political. Why aren't you all getting things done? We want to see things happen that make a difference in their daily lives.
That's why you guys need to get back there and get something done. And it's very annoying to a lot of us. I just got a text here from Jeremy in Chesapeake who says, look, tell Dr. Wittman surprise billing is a joke. Why do I have insurance? Why do I have premiums to pay when I get screwed by the insurance companies? And look, this is a big issue that popped up. Nobody's dealing with it. And one of the answers in there that is just it blows my mind is that you guys are looking at rate setting so that insurance companies get to set their rate, and then you have arbitration with the patient. I don't want to be involved in arbitration. I just want the thing paid, right? I'm paying into the insurance. I'm paying my deductible. I don't want to deal with arbitration. So my question is, capping rates for doctors and hospitals to me is just a step towards Medicare for all, right? That's all that it does. And the root cause of surprise billing lies with insurance companies, because they're the ones that are denying you coverage. So why would we go for something like rate setting? How does that do anything for the patient?
Well, John, rate setting, you're right. Rate setting doesn't do anything to address the fundamental element of transparency and fairness in an insurance policy. I'm sure I'm like everybody else. I read what's in the insurance policy and what it covers and what it doesn't. And to me, it's not clear. And then it's this game back and forth. I get a bill. They tell me this is what I owe. I look at it and say, well, that doesn't really seem like that's what the insurance or what the insurance policy covers. But then it's the insurance company that just, has the wherewithal to just grind people down. And, you go back and forth. It's appeal, deny, and it just wears people out. I want to make sure that it's clear and transparent as to what am I getting for the premium that I pay for. And my expectation is that I clearly understand that, and that the insurance company stands behind its obligation to pay. And as you point out, that's not happening now. It is not right for the rules of the game to be changed in mid-course, or for you not to even clearly have the rules outlined to you so you can understand what the rules are. In other words, what you're purchasing. Those are the things that need to be fixed.
Well, look, rate setting is not the answer. I'm appalled by this whole thing because at the end of the day, there's no guaranteed cost savings to patients, which is the objective of it. So it's like we're trying to deal with surprise billing, and then I see the bill in the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House, and it's basically rate setting to benefit the insurance companies. So the whole thing doesn't make any sense to me because you're not addressing the problem. Can I be assured that you are not going to be part of the group in Congress that seeks to be part of the rate setting group that basically doesn't help patients?
John, I am looking at what we can do to bring down costs. I don't think setting rates are the way to do that. And of course, I'm not on the Energy and Commerce Committee, so I don't know what's going to happen with those pieces of legislation. But as I pointed out, I think that we can put more responsibility of transparency and accountability on the insurance companies to make sure there's fairness with their insurees. That's the way that we fix this. I agree. The issue with providers, I think there are a lot of things that providers can do to be more efficient, but setting rates, I don't think is one of the ways to do that.
Well, see, this to me should be a major Republican plan going forward to bring the voters and say, we're going to fix this. It's not going to be setting rates. It's not going to be Medicaid for all or Medicare for all. This is going to be a plan that benefits patients. And I think if Republicans got behind something like that made sense, you would get a lot of backing from a lot of people. Because every time I bring this up on the radio, Congressman, I get probably 10 to 15 texts immediately of people that were nailed personally by surprise billing. I mean, it's bigger than anybody thinks it is, and hopefully you'll be able to get something done that is patient-centric and not big insurance company-centric, which is where it's heading now. Congressman, I'm out of time. I want to thank Congressman Rob Wittman for being with us, as always. And, Congressman, thank you, as always, for your forthrightness and candor. More information, whitman.house.gov. Dr. Wittman, thanks for being with us.